a floppy speed till I give it a read, keep it crisp in the sleeve. Every Tuesday night feels like Christmas Eve, living between Wednesdays.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews. And tonight we're joined by Mike Connell and very shortly Kevin Manklow as we just get him set up. So, Mike, thanks so much for taking the time to go on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Konrad. Always a pleasure. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. And Kevin, we're going to bring you in. Why, hello, Kevin.
Hello there.
Welcome to the stream. How you doing?
Good. Sorry, I'm just trying to set up two cameras right now.
Always late.
No problem. No rush.
Artists and their timelines, right?
Oh, no. Here we go. Here we go.
So, Mike and Kevin, for the folks out there in YouTube land who've maybe never seen your faces, never heard your names, who are Kevin and Mike? And maybe, you know what? Well, Kevin, you're doing your thing, setting up. Mike, why don't you go first?
I'm Mike Connell. I'm one half of Mad Quill Comics, which was a publishing imprint Kevin and I came up with a number of years ago to kind of provide a channel and, you know, fuel the flame of our comic passions. You know, we both have, you know, day jobs, and we both work in kind of like the marketing and advertising world. And this was, if that's all we did, I think we'd go bananas. So I'm a writer by trade, and it's, you know, content like fantasy, you know, historical fiction, that kind of stuff is always what I've been into. Obviously, you know, all sorts of comics, superhero comics, that kind of stuff too. I loved as a kid, but this was just you know, Mad Quill was a great way to give us something to do on the side.
Beautiful. And Kevin, what about yourself? Who is Kevin Manklow?
So I'm a art director by trade, and I work in marketing advertising field. I've been doing that for 23 years now.
Wow. Congratulations.
Long time. Mike and I actually work together on a lot of the same client work.
Which is how we met, yeah.
Which is how we met, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And yeah, I've always been drawing comics, indie comics, since I was a little kid. And even, oh my gosh, I think I just on Facebook today, somebody from like my kindergarten class was like, I remember when you were drawing in kindergarten. I was like, whoa, okay. So like, it's so great to see you're still drawing. So I've always been drawing comics and trying to, you know, do my craft. And yeah, when Mike and I met, we kind of instantly figured out that we both like comic books and we both kind of are into the same type of stuff. And Mike, as a natural writer, had some great ideas, and I had some ideas too. We kind of came together and put some stuff together, and yeah, here we are putting out indie comics.
I love it. I'm very curious to know, and maybe you don't have to answer this one. How long ago did you guys sort of become friends, I'll say? And do you have any comics that have not seen the light of day?
So I think we first met around, you know, 10 to 13 years ago, I think. If not a little more. I forget the exact,
yeah.
You know, it all starts to blur.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so, and when we, to Kevin's point, like we hit it off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't necessarily, like right off the bat, I think we had discussions about the idea of comics, and it took a number of years before we got off kind of our collective asses to get something going. But there was always, you know, a lot of talking about planning, about doing something. As far as comics that never saw the light of day, not as Mad Quill yet, but Kevin has a number of projects that he was always working on, and has in like webcomic format and other formats that He has one. Well, you did publish others in the past, way back when.
A long time ago, like 20 years ago, I did one called Lyrics Rage, and it was kind of a horror serial killer. It was weird and dark, and I was in college. You know, that's the time to experiment. And yeah, that was a small run that we did back in the 90s, and that was fun because we're going to, I think we were promoting that one in like clubs in Toronto. Like, oh my God, there it is.
Yeah.
Ew, wow. Yeah, we that was fun, and that was my first taste of like hitting the road as an indie comic guy, and like going to Detroit to comic conventions and going to Chicago and promoting. That was a ton of fun. Learned a lot, and yeah, I think we almost, somebody liked it in the Canadian television scene, and they wanted to make it into something, and that died really quick. But I just remember them saying that, like, they were talking to, I remember a group back in the 90s called Tea Party.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're like a great rock band back in the 90s, and they're into it, and they're hoping to be part of it. And don't quote me on that though. But yeah, it was fun at the time, and that kind of petered out after a while, and then went on to do some webtoon stuff on my own, and yeah, then Mike and I just kind of came up with some ideas together, and you know, paired with getting older, jobs, families, you know, comics kind of take not a backseat, but other priorities get in the way.
Life,
and
family, rent,
all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you know, we get to it when we can, and now we're kind of doing a heavy push on getting some stuff out the door, which is great. So we're seeing production just get a little bit faster now, and the stories are coming together faster, and we're also able to delegate some responsibilities to other folks too that are helping us out, which is definitely a plus.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is also, I think you know, doing the Kickstarter kind of creator-owned indie comic route is also like the type of person I am, and I think the type of people we are. Sometimes, you know, we work in a world of deadlines, and you know, it's not always exactly what you want, but sometimes, like, you know, setting a goal, setting a time, a launch date, you know, otherwise we would just kind of languish in that. You know what, we should, you know, oh, a publisher hasn't picked us up yet, or, oh, like, you know, should I get an agent, or, oh, should, you know, it's like, you know what, there are platforms and channels that cater to our pace, if we can say it that way, right? Like, you know, I think initially we may have spoken this the last time we talked, but, you know, there was initial, even for the Feral stuff, there was initial publisher interest. But the reality of, so when can you get this done? So when can you get the pages out? When can you, you know, deliver? When, you know, or switch that around, this is when you have to get it done. And so that, yes, that's what I'm talking about, but it was a little too much pressure. It was a little too much. It would have suffered. It wouldn't have worked. You know, part of me thinks we would have made it work no matter what, but I think that Kickstarter makes it, is a good platform for us for that.
Interesting. I've got the idea sort of mothballing in my head for future questions here for you. Really quick though, Kevin, tech-wise, are you happy, or did you want to make any changes?
Sorry, tech-wise, in what sense? How I'm holding my camera?
Yeah, well, exactly. Do you want to flip to a laptop? Are you happy with the camera? Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to flip to a laptop, but it's being difficult.
Difficult.
Sorry.
For both of you, as well as anyone out there watching, whether you're watching now with us live or in the future, we're using StreamYard for this. Kevin, if you go into your laptop, because it's a separate entity from your phone, and follow the link on the laptop, you can actually enter yourself as another guest. You cool. Literally have two screens. So that's not a big deal. go for it.
Will do. Hold on.
Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Absolutely. I was going to say, in the meantime, we're 10 minutes in, so I definitely want to ask, because we need to get this done. Mike, can you give us an understanding of what Feral the Beast Within is?
Sure. Yeah, so the original Feral universe came about in our last Kickstarter in the Bestiary, a field guide to the New World. The idea being what was a very, nugget, there you go, a nugget of an idea, which was, just werewolves during the fur trade. What would that be like? How would they have impacted that economy, that ecosystem, that kind of stuff? Exactly, right? So the idea here is, that was our initial foray into that world, to be like, will there be interest in this? Are there storylines that we can develop? And then the Beast Within is the first of steps of a larger storyline that, again, still focuses in that, and lives in that universe, but is very much just the, not just, it's very much focused on the idea that, these, werewolves, fantastic creatures exist. They are components of a larger imperialistic, powers that be, kind of like, what can we make off of this? Kind of like the riches of the New World, and it's just one. So this is a more, narrowed in, focused storyline within that space.
Very cool. One thing that absolutely sort of caught my attention, because I met both of you a number of years ago now at a fan expo. I believe actually you're my first official post as Wednesday Night Reviews, your poster with me holding it.
Right on.
Way back when, I don't know if it's still live, but you had a comic, like a webtoon up. And this is some of it. And the rest. This, by the way, the book I'm holding is Not So Fair Tales, which is an anthology featuring a number of really cool books. And yours just happens to be this one. Will the characters that appeared in this story reappear later? Have you departed from them dramatically? Ooh.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Artists, man, artists, always gone.
These things
so a quick answer to that is, you never rule anything out. But again, that short story, similar to the Bestiary, was they were exercises, they were tests, they were, I think a lot of what we did there could parlay itself into the next Feral iterations.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'd say, maybe. But the current 1 to 6, they're not involved. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Like I liked it because the initial webcomic that you guys had, where it was very much so set up for either laptop or mobile phone, where you could just scroll and scroll and scroll.
Yeah.
It had a different feel. It was very unique. Oh, here's Kevin back. And
Technology. My apologies.
It's all good. It's all good.
You guys can hear me?
Oh, yes. But we've got a bit of an echo with me. Earbuds, my friend.
Oh my gosh.
But what I liked about it was, because that story was so different and interesting and intriguing, the fact that the Beast Within and the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th issues that will be coming out later, I love that they're taking it to a new direction. I guess, what were the differences in inspiration on the art end for the original compared to the new stories?
What do you take that?
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh my god. The Beast Within, sorry, the Bestiary was very much, again, it was a let's get off our ass and explore this world. Let's create a storyline. Let's create a couple of characters. it's not an origin story per se, but a first steps into that universe.
I like that.
So I feel like it was very much, we had a lot of room to work with. We, had a lot of flexibility in terms of what we wanted to do, because it was just an initial 12-page examination that then expanded into the actual catalog, the field guide itself, that kind of also helped us flex some of Kevin's creative juices in that area, right? So whereas now with Beast Within, there had to be a more succinct, beginning, middle, and end. There had to be a story, like there had to be, action and, consequences and action and basically there needed to be that journey that both visually as well as, story-wise, that just what was way different. So I found it a completely different but much better exercise, to be honest, a little more fulfilling, a little more, meatier. So.
Interesting. And Kevin, for you, like artistically, between drawing the original, the Bestiary, and now Beast Within, what sort of changed for you?
So originally I thought, okay, so Feral, the Beast Within, I'm going to do everything traditional. And I really wanted to, guys. But I found, again, the idea of drawing through something and then making changes. Digital was just so much faster. It was just the ability to on the fly adjust what I need, talk to Mike, show him, keep adjusting. It was just so much easier and faster for me. And that just, for me, that shows that I'm personally not ready. I'm not at the level where I can do everything traditionally like I'd love to. And that's fine. I'm happy to admit that. I'm great at sketching traditionally. I'm great at pen and ink. But when it comes to storytelling, I'm still growing. I'm still working on that. So it's something that I can't just put together and, like the pros out there, be very confident and happy with. I'm always adjusting and noodling and adjusting. That's a big thing for this one was, trying to do something traditionally and, it didn't quite work out the way I wanted. So going back to digital, but then forcing myself digitally to try and work as I do traditionally, which is kind of funny because I'm a big brush pen guy. So like everything I do is like brushwork. Love brushwork. And I'm a big brush pen fanatic. I have lots of them. I'm not like a quill guy. I'm not like one of these things. I forget what these are called, but like I'm a brush guy. So to try and find that ability to do, the type of line work that I do, where it's like this drippy effect with the brush, which I think it's kind of becoming a little bit like my signature style, and I'm trying to do that in digital, and I can kind of do it, but I haven't found the exact tools, the exact brushes in Photoshop yet. If anybody out there can give me some hints on some great brushes I could use, I think my style does kind of come through working digitally, but I'm always trying to force that brush style that I work with traditionally into my digital work. So it's a growing evolution still. I'm getting there. We're getting better every day.
You're on mute, Connor.
I'm gonna pop up the Pixar page here.
Awesome.
And one thing that I as per what you mentioned, Kevin, your style when you're doing inks and actual like analog on physical paper is more raw, edgy, inky, not messy, but it's got that look to it. Whereas the cover here for Beast Within, now that you've gone digital, the line work remains, but there's like a polished nature to it, which I found interesting. Not good, not bad, just it is.
Yeah, it's interesting for me too, because when I'm doing this stuff and I'm like, okay, for my Instagram account, I'm just going to do sketches, and I try and do some sketches like one every 2 days, and I just do a time lapse, and it's fun to do. But I find like when I do something that's going to be published and it's going to be for somebody to purchase for the mass public, I'm like, oh man, I better tighten up my game. This is real now, and it might show in the work. And like you're saying, it's not good or bad. It's just a little bit different. So that's where I'm trying to bridge that gap right now, and just be a little bit more free flowing when it comes to the digital stuff. And talking to other artists, they're like, just go traditional, man. They're all happy mistakes. And it's true. They do become happy mistakes. But man, I use a lot of whiteout with those happy mistakes, and it gets rough. And then there's been a lot of times. Something that people used to use to cover up mistakes when they're writing, handwriting. No, but yeah, it's one of those things where, again, you can either Photoshop, Control Z, change something, or you can get out the whiteout and try and change something the hard way and go over it. And also time is a big factor. Like, again, family, full-time jobs, other responsibilities with life. You tend to look for easier ways to get the product finished without sacrificing, your integrity on the product, and you still want to make sure that you're producing everything at its highest quality. So it's finding that happy medium. And in some cases, it's a blending of the two things. Like, this page is actually a traditional page, but it was cleaned up quite a bit in Photoshop later on, because there were some mistakes that I had. There were some things I didn't like, and I had to drop some new stuff into it. So I had to draw separately and cut and paste and bring it all together. So again, that's me showing my evolution and my growth. I still have lots to learn.
Do you find, like, artistically, because you're mixing and mashing now a little bit, or trying to go full digital, do you find it's changing how you draw, or is it more so a matter of mentally you're like, okay, I need to be able to get this done on a certain timeline, ergo I'll use this tool?
So Mike and I have talked about this process, because he's like, dude, just do covers traditionally, and everything else internally, just do it digital, because we'll get it done faster, and it'll look great. So it's a tough thing to answer, to be honest with you. I still I'm aiming to do everything traditionally, but I've had to put some ground rules down. Like, okay, so if I'm going to color this whole thing myself, I'm going to do like a watercolor style, and then it's going to be a digital watercolor style. But then I keep gravitating back to my old coloring style, even in digitally, which is, it's more of like an anime cut style, where you're dropping full colors down, and then you're adding tints and tones, and you're cutting those tints and tones in to show where light sources are and shadows. It's weird. It's like you're fighting yourself on every page, because you know what you want to do, but then you kind of go back to your old methodologies. So at the end of the day, I think traditional for me will be the route that I'll be taking for everything. Maybe not for this issue, maybe for the next issue, but for now it's digital with a bit of traditional, and that's okay, right?
Absolutely. It's one of those things where, again, art being like massively subjective, right? And like we could bring up the larger question of what is good art or good comic art. But I just think, like, in my head, like when I see that, it's still very much, oh, that's Kevin Manklow's drawing. Like I know who that is. I could recognize you as the artist. And it's just a matter of like, oh, that's just Kevin's style when he's working on this type of book. So I don't even, as a consumer, as a reader, it's just, oh, it's the next step. It's the next thing that he's come out with. Not like, clearly I could tell, and for the people watching and listening, they'll be able to tell that you're kind of fighting it. You don't necessarily maybe love one over the other. You prefer your certain way of doing it. But again, for the end of, I need to get this book done, you're willing to do what you have to do. It's just an interesting thing artistically to hear about, because normally I hear people just embrace one or the other, and they're like, oh, I'm never doing digital, or they're like, oh, digital's the best. But you're kind of finding a happy medium, and I really like that.
I appreciate that, Konrad. Now that the Kickstarter's been, we hit our goal, which is amazing. I'm looking at the timeline. I'm like, okay, so we've got a lot of pages done, but there's still a lot of work to do. And looking at that timeline, I'm like, okay, well, if we're shipping this stuff out in December, there's a lot of drawing to be done still. There's a lot of coloring to still be finished off. We've got to get it to our letterer. So in my mind, I'm like, yes, we should go traditional. But for me, again, digital, just, I know I can get it done faster. I know I can get it done on time. And I want to make sure that our fans and our customers are getting the product on time. And there's a confidence in that, where when we release issue number 2 and we kickstart that, they're going to know that they're going to get that product. And it's going to come in the mail at the right time, because you hear the horror stories of people that are backing Kickstarters and they're waiting for years for anything. And that we definitely don't want to be that. I mean, I think we were pretty diligent, right, Mike, on the bestiary. We got that going, even though I made that interesting decision to do a sketch for, what was it, if we hit 200 backers, custom sketch for each backer. That was a yeah.
I mean that's
go ahead.
The whole idea of that. That's where the magic of Kickstarter comes in as well, and where the problems, and when you're in it, you're like, wouldn't this be great? And then it's very easy to lose sight. I mean, especially as a writer, it's very easy to lose sight of how long it actually takes some of these things to be brought to life. So it's like, at the end of the day, when you're promising a sketch for every, with that many backers, that's bananas. And it was good. People wanted it. But as we're doing right now, it's like, so happy we're funded, so happy we're doing as well as we are. But to come up with those stretch goals to get us to, let's not even worry about, dollar figures now. Let's think in terms of backers. We want more backers. We want more people involved in the beast within world and the Pharaoh world. So how do we do that? And those stretch, all of a sudden it's like, original sketches or unique sketches, or a sketch for everybody, or everyone gets a sketch, and all of a sudden becomes a lot of work for Kevin, which is fine by me, but it's a lot of work for Kevin. Yeah.
I think to that point, even with our reward tiers now, I think we have one reward tier that you can get 1 of 5 custom pieces. And even that, Mike, you're like, are you sure, Kev? Because you still got to finish the book. And I wish I could do, 5, 10, 15, 20 custom pieces as a reward tier, but we're finding ways to still get people additional sketches and artwork. Like I think we have one pack where this one sketch here is going to be part of a 3-pack sketch print, and different backers can get that. We have other custom pieces. Where to go here? Sorry, I'm falling apart today, guys. So this guy here, it's a piece.
So good.
Yeah, so this was a traditional piece that was done, and there's 5 different types of this. In this case, it's a lady with a Wendigo mask on. And today I was trying to set up my second camera, which screwed up everything, guys. I apologize right now. So I could do this. I don't know if you can see this one. It was a werewolf sketch I was going to work on while we were talking. But instead, I spent 10 minutes trying to set up a second camera and it didn't work. But that's the thing. Like, I'd love to do more of these pieces. And maybe, you know, if we hit some certain numbers of backers, we can add more sketches and more giveaways like that. I'd be happy to do it. But I don't know about 200 again. That was a rough couple months.
Which is the date. That's where you get into that problem of, again, the whole, like, if we hit this goal and you're kind of like, we'll never do it. And if we do, that's a good problem to have. Same kind of thing. We've kind of, well, not we, Kevin has backed himself into a potential problem with our, you know, the whole concept where we could potentially, like, you know, fan involvement seemed to do really well last time. We did the put your pet in the bestiary.
Yeah.
We got tons of responses. The price point made it worth it. But it was you know, it ended up being a lot of work, right? Yeah. Like that's my dog, Jasper. You know, there was a lot of work on that, and it was a lot of fun, and it really helped push us to the higher echelon in terms of dollar figures. This time around, we included what we're calling the Immortals tier, where it's like, hey, you know, what is, oh my God, the actual Dracula is paying attention. What are we going to be able to do in that world that lets us bring in other people? We didn't want to do the pet again. We wanted to make sure that we weren't doing too much, biting off more than we can chew. Mm-hmm. So we put together a tier, which is the sketch that we did a view. Well, not we, that Kevin did a view. The idea being that, you know, if you pay premium price, like I was like, we gotta cap this at 5, and even that seemed like a lot, right? To do 5 of these with a little bit of a bio, not the same that we did in the last one, was just like a little bit crazy. So we were kind of like, you know, what are we doing? So the price point is high enough because it's a lot of work. You're actually being, you know, joking aside, like you're, you know, when this is turned into a TV show and everyone across the world is watching it, it's going to be amazing. You know, you're going to be immortalized in print forever, right? And that's what price tag do you put on that? But for this particular case, we made it an unlimited tier. As many people who want to go into it can. We just priced it high, hoping that would curb. And, you know, to date, you know, we have nothing to worry about. But, you know, if it does catch on, or, you know, if people watching this are like, oh, yeah, I really want to try that, all of a sudden Kevin's going to have 10, 20, 30 different sketches to make. So good luck, Kevin.
By the way, Konrad, thank you for that. Yeah. When you sent the picture, when Mike asked, hey, can you send a picture? We want to do this reward tier. And you sent that picture of you in the woods on your camping trip. I was like, oh, Konrad's my favorite guy. Look at, he's so into this shot. The ferns are like, he's kind of behind the ferns in the woods. Oh, it was so good.
Thank you. Well, it was one of those things too where I happened to be in Algonquin Park. I got reception. I got Mike's email, and it was just like, "Hey, opportunity." And I was like, "Okay." And I read it, and it was like, "Well, I've got just like normal profile headshots," but I'm like, "Come on! It's a book about, you know, mid 18th century Canada, the fur trade. They'd be in the forest," and I'm like, "I'm literally in Algonquin Park, right where they would be, basically like." You might as well just do it, right?
You did it, man. You did it, yeah. Yeah, you're too pretty in that picture, though. I had to give you one eye. Sorry.
Yeah, I noticed
that. It was a fun piece to do, and you know, to be immortalized in a comic book and be part of the story. And I mean, Mike doesn't get off the hook too. He's got to do a little bio for each one of them. So it also makes it fun for us. It keeps us really engaged, and it keeps us wanting to, include the audience. And that's kind of what this is all about still, right? Like, there's the day job, and that's work, and it is what it is. And then there's doing these Kickstarters and doing these indie comics. And it's really just, for me, it's a selfish way to just like have fun with the things I've always wanted to do with my art and work with friends. And like at the end of this month, we were supposed to go to Fan Expo, but unfortunately it was sold out and there's no tables for us this year. And it was more like there was going to be like a release the Kickstarter month. And then we're going to be doing some interviews with like Wednesday night reviews and stuff. And then we're going to go to Fan Expo. It's just going to be a big celebration of like the stuff that Mike and I love to do. And, I thought like, okay, for my own books that I do on the side, or that I want to do on the side, beyond me working with Mike, I could do those too and kickstart them, but it's just not as much fun. I mean, this is for me and Mike. Half the time we're talking like, all right, we got to talk about work stuff. And then as soon as work is over, we're geeking out about all of our comic book stuff. So back to my original point, like doing these sketches and bringing people in and being like, oh, do you want to be part of this and that? It's just fun for us. Like, it's just fun to be able to, even at Fan Expo last year, there's so many fans that were just really into the idea of it, and they just wanted more and more. And I was like, man, if I could write you guys into everything and draw, our fans into all this stuff, I would love to, because at the end of the day, it makes me happy. I know it makes Mike happy. It's why we're still doing this. We'd love for it to take off and be a Netflix deal and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm like, we got a Kickstarter up. We got a Project We Love badge. It's been funded. We're pretty happy right now. Just the fact that we're still doing this, and we can now say, okay, issue 1, we're going with it now. Now we got to start talking about issue number 2 and issue number 3, and where does the world go from there? Werewolves during the fur trade. What about beyond North America? What about globally? How does that, historical fiction, that idea, apply to the rest of the world? And how can we take liberties, in Europe and in Asia, and what was happening then, and what can we do, and how can we play in this world and expand the universe? I think you're on mute again.
Oh, yeah. That is fascinating. Great questions. All of which are intriguing, like mentally, for me to see what happens in the next 6 issues, or something beyond that. Who knows? But not to get too far ahead of ourselves. Again, we're 38 minutes in. We're a little bit past what I normally want to do this, but hey, whatever. Can you guys go over sort of the tiers that people can pledge to in order to get the comic? Because at this point it's funded, so it's not a question of will it get made, it's a question of when will it be mailed, basically. So when people pledge to the tier to get their book, can you go over the different options you've got and things like that?
Sure. We got a lot of echoing now. The idea here is that like all Kickstarter projects, you typically have a digital version of whatever you're creating. It's kind of your most basic entry point. That, if you've got too many comics at home, if you're just kind of trying to get a taste of the world, you're not really sure, it's a nice early entry point. And then the rest kind of scale from there. So it goes, that one, digital catch-up, which will include this, Beast Within, as well as last year's Bestiary. And then we go, $25, which, is the, main cover of Feral, the Beast Within, because there are 2 other variant covers. So again, this one, it includes, the print version and then the digital version. And then this is also, once you get into the print components, if you back it, your name will be included in the special thanks section of the book. And then after that, we have the first variant cover, which I've always loved. It was kind of some of Kevin's original design work. But as a result, it's got a bit of a premium quality to it. It's, so we that's a little more expensive, but you get that plus the digital versions. Then a friend of Kevin's, who, if he wants to speak to that one, he went to school with Mike Ruth, Kev?
I got drunk with Mike Ruth. It's a very different thing. We went to different schools, but we had a common friend who we went to house parties, and it's all a blur. But anyway, that's the college years.
Moose juice.
Exactly, moose juice. So yeah, Mike Ruth, Canadian artist, legend extraordinaire. He's been on your show a few times. I think I did a sketch battle with Mike once on your show, Konrad. He was kind enough to produce a Pharaoh the Beast Within cover piece for us as a variant. He's donating the original, which I think already got scooped up as one of the reward tiers. Yeah, I mean, Mike, if there's an expert in how to draw a werewolf, it's Mike Ruth. And he brought it hard. He brought it, and it's looking awesome, and we're super pumped to have him as our variant cover artist. So, Mike, thanks again. We appreciate it very much, man. Looking awesome.
Yeah, Mike is stunningly good at generally any monster, but yeah, werewolves and Swamp Thing actually tend to be a speciality.
Yeah, Swamp Thing. Yeah. Very cool stuff he does.
But yeah. The Mike Ruth cover, again, it was a premium component. Again, the same idea as we're building interest in the book. Obviously, like Kevin's the Kevin artwork is great. Variants always were not a mystery to me, but something when I would back other material. If you don't know the artist or unless it really speaks to you, it's like, why would you go with one over the other? So I did find, but obviously I love Mike's work as well. He clearly is a kick-ass werewolf, illustrator. It was perfect in this scenario, and again provided us with yet another tier to say, like, look, yeah, like Mike does DC covers. Mike is, known, in the comics world everywhere. So it was just one of those things where it's like, this would be great, right? So that, and after that, we go to the print catch-up version, which is, if you didn't back the bestiary, you probably should, just for some backstory.
Yeah, you should.
So that was helpful. So yeah, that one gets you the original bestiary as well as this issue. Then there's the sketch pack that Kevin was talking about, which is, issue number 1 plus a 3-pack of sketches that he's worked on. Obviously, some of which he showed you already. I don't think it's just those 3, obviously, but that's the idea. Move up another tier, and it's get all of the variant covers. Some people just like all the covers from a collector's perspective, or just because you're not sure which one you love. And then there's a barrel catch up, which is, include not only just the Beast Within variants, but also the original. Obviously, all these you can see as well. When you go in, there's going to be add-ons as well. So if you buy one, when you check out, there's always add-ons that you can add. Then there's the Manklow original art, which is like that one there, which is awesome. You get the original cover, 1 of 6, the digital versions, as well as this original piece. Then they moved to the Immortals tier, which again was how do we get people involved, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that one's high. That's 250 with 0 limits. Anyone can get that. Good luck, awesome. Kevin. And then we move on to the Beast, which is
that's cool.
pretty well just any and everything that you would want that's fair related. We had some T-shirts, some posters that we've done for fan expos and other cons in the past, as well as all the variants, as well as the bestiary. That's you're getting up in price point, but it's definitely one of the ones that's gives everyone what they want. And then we've got the even bestiary, which is the sketches, all the variants, the bestiary itself, as well as an original piece of the original line art for the original page.
The original line art for the first page of issue 1. It's kind of an oversized piece. It's one of my favorites, but happy to give it to a fan who is really into the stuff we're working on. It's been sitting in my studio for a long time because I think this is my test piece I did like months and months ago. So this one's hopefully going to go to a good home at some point, but it's a good one to do. Really happy with how it turned out.
Test.
It was literally my test piece. Yeah, it was to see if just wanted to see drawing different things like the foliage and how did I want to do the backgrounds and how did I want to do just the character, and was he looking too realistic? Was he looking too cartoony? Just different styles that I wanted to put together, and this was kind of the amalgamation of all that as a test piece. Yeah, but it worked out really well, so it became the first page of Feral issue number 1.
I love that a test page became that. Like, okay, sure, Kevin, yeah. Then what, we are coming to the end. We've got about 12 and a half-ish minutes left. One question that I had, because I'm curious, because you both create fantastic stories that I definitely have fallen in love with. For Beast Within, can you give a sort of a teaser of what the story is going to be about?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it happens 100 years later, approximately, based on when the bestiary happened. So bestiary was kind of like, here's some original exploratory adventures, the creatures that he found. The bestiary itself was compiled and lost, and it was seen as a very, very important piece of a larger imperialistic puzzle that the powers that be in England were like, we need this bestiary kind of thing. 100 years go by, and still kind of following. We're kind of in the just following the golden age of piracy. So there's lots of pirates, like kind of Pirates of the Caribbean kind of thing, the black sails type of storylines. But then there's the idea is that a ragtag group of pirates are kind of down on their luck. They've been searching for that big score, and they a chance discovery looks to turn things around for them. But like in all stories like that, be careful what you wish for kind of thing. This chance discovery could have a much bigger impact than they were expecting. There's obviously, because it's so valuable and because it's such an important thing, whatever it is that they find, then the powers that be in England are also searching for this thing, or at least the people that were carrying it. And then it goes from there, just to see what do they decide to do, what kind of trouble does it get them in, how high can the stakes get, and what does the big picture look like, right? Like what are the it's not just about treasure and conquests. There are bigger plot lines at play. So what does that look like? You're on mute, Konrad. Yeah.
My apologies. I guess my next question for Kevin then is it's kind of a two-parter. One, does that mean at some point in the next either this or the next 5 or 6 issues, we may see Kevin's rendition of like a royal English guard with the big tall hat? And while stereotypically and classically the things that artists hate drawing are like horses and fences, is there anything, Kevin, that now that you've had to draw a lot more detailed sort of interiors, especially like the interior for this book being quite a bit larger, that you've learned that you do not exactly love?
Yes. I think I mentioned this before on your show. I don't enjoy drawing straight lines. So technology is not my friend when I have to draw it. Neither are cityscapes. But there's something magical and interesting about drawing Old England, or about drawing something that's more like the Black Plague, and just putting a mood into something like castles, and a mood into something like a fort, and just being able to embrace that in those days. I mean, there really wasn't a lot of straight lines, so I'm okay. I'm good. Even weaponry, muskets, swords, axes. I mean, straight lines, it's not really their thing. So I'm great. Brushwork, digital, we can keep things organic and fluid as I draw them. As for drawing guys with big hats, I mean, always, but there'll probably be, antlers coming out of those hats or something crazy like that. But I mean, I know we're coming to the end of the show here, but Mike and I have some questions. We have some questions for you, actually, Konrad.
Well, before we do the question,
okay.
I do have to say one thing you always have to watch with Kevin is historical accuracy is not his not his biggest strength. So you'll see in like the bestiary, there are things in there that just should not be in there. They just did not exist or happen in the New World at that time. And so as far as the kind of the beefeater bearskin hats, those did not actually make an appearance until the 1800s, which is past where we are right now. Oh. So if Kevin were to do a big, tall bearskin hat, he would be absolutely wrong in doing so at this stage of the storyline. But later on, maybe as we progress, and maybe we'll get into the 1800s, I think they made their first appearance after the Battle of Waterloo or something like that. But so that's where, I'll have to edit Kevin in that regard. So, yeah.
So now that I know this bothers Mike a lot, it's my nature to add some Easter eggs throughout the book, which we'll see if you can find or not. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll see what we find in the panels, just to bother Mike. But just kidding, Mike. I'll make sure there's no green apples and stuff like that. So make sure that we have the right flag.
Granny Smith apple did not exist in the New World in the time period that the bestiary happened, and there's a Granny Smith apple being eaten in the New World, and it just shouldn't be there. So,
like an old married couple, we are. So we have some questions for you because, busy. Lots of work to do on the Kickstarter. Lots of work to do on The Beast Within. Day jobs, family, all that stuff happening. Crazy times. We did have to offload some of the work to some trusted, talented individuals. And you were kind enough, before you went to the great far north of Algonquin, to put together our Kickstarter video. Amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
He's a very talented individual who can do awesome videos for Kickstarter, everybody. So hit him up if you have a Kickstarter that you want a video for. Konrad does great work. How did you find working with us, Konrad?
I okay, I have a very, very specific opinion, and it's a good thing. So in general, I found working with you guys great. One of my biggest pet peeves that I have found with people who are wanting creative services that are not necessarily creative people themselves is they're not at all specific. So like I've had feedback where I made a video for someone and they were like, "Oh, I don't really like this clip. Can you change it?" And I'm like, "Sure. How?" Um, and one of the things that you both did that literally just like made me so happy is I put a when I was making your video for the Kickstarter, there's a chunk where there's font on the page, and I chose a script font because it thematically fit the story. And you both got back to me with, don't use that font. We want this font. And it was like, okay, no problem. It's specific. You gave me the font you wanted. It wasn't like, we don't like this font. Can you pick a different one among literally thousands? It was just this. So working with you two was overwhelmingly easy because it was like, you gave me this exact feedback. It was, I want this. And I loved it.
The thing about that is because we both work in a client-driven industry where we have to communicate creatively to clients and change what they need at a dime very quickly. We know we have to be as clear as possible because now we're the clients. So we wanted to make sure that we gave you the right information. But we just wanted to say thank you very much again for helping us out. And you're officially part of the Mad Quill team. So Mike, if you can show your shirt, we got a shirt for you. There you go. So next time we see you, we got one for you. Not the one Mike's wearing.
Not this one.
But a different one, brand new. And yeah, man, thank you so much for the help. It's awesome job.
Well, thank you, and absolutely. Anytime you need more, please. But yeah, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. I will rock that shirt with pride in many interviews.
Well, there are 5 more books, so we need 5 more videos at the very least. So
Done.
To Kevin's point as well, though, which was interesting. Just quickly, I know we're wrapping up, but the idea, like, how often do you get like in our world, it's like, yeah, can you just make it pop a little more? Can you, just make that better? Can you make, I just don't like it. Change it, and it's just like, and don't get, but one thing, again, what we appreciate, your speed and turnaround and whatever. But as a result in our world, sometimes you do say, sorry, this quoted price within this scope of work, you only get 3 kicks at the can. You only get 3, chances to come back and make changes. So being able to be very specific about that, and you might want to work that into your process, or I don't know if you don't already, but the idea is like, yeah, like otherwise it's open season and it just can go on and on and on.
Oh yeah, that's the thing I've run into where people are like, oh, can I have, like, I have 10,000 lists of changes, but it's like, if someone wants to hand me a list of like, oh, you've made a minute-long video and here's 18,000 changes I want you to make, cool, if you give that to me up front. But it's like, yeah, if you string it out over months, it's like, okay, hold on, people. Like, be concise, be clear. What did you want from the get-go? And then we're good. But yeah, thank you guys so much for bringing me in, so to speak. I mean, we're at 59 and 23 seconds or whatever, but I'll end on the same last 2 questions I always like to end on. So at the moment, what is it that you two are reading for enjoyment when you have time?
King of Spies.
That looks good.
Matteo Scalera, Mark Miller. Sorry, he did a great job. I feel like a lot of these books are like, like Netflix publication, so it's testing ground for a lot of shows. But just in general, great stuff, beautiful art, Yeah, I can't. Mateo does some amazing work. Like he's just A-list across the board. And I mean, Mark Miller, you can't go wrong, right? He's got his own universe now. So this is what I'm reading, and this guy here as well, 7 to Eternity. Yeah, Rick. And it's great to look at it like this, but I prefer to look at the artist edition, which is basically the full size artist edition, and it's the 11 by 17 pages. And when I found this at Fan Expo, guys, I was so happy. It was great. So I recommend, if anybody can find artist editions like this, pick them up because they are worth it. They're a full size. You get to see exactly how the creators are putting the art together before it's shrunk down to to this size. It's really, really cool. So that's kind of what I'm doing. But I don't read much because I got so much work to do with Feral. So there you go.
Fair.
Yep.
Coincidentally, I'm reading the same one, but I'm rereading actually, because I had the individuals, but then I picked this up, and it's just a beautiful, massive tome that I love. After you've kind of read all the regular ones, it's getting into this. I showed you this earlier as well. I'm also just about to start Jeff Lemire's Maze book series, which is great. I also, like, to Kevin's point, that you don't have a lot of time sometimes, so I listen to audiobooks. I'm rereading, I guess. Back when I was a kid, I read the Thomas Covenant series of books by Stephen R. Donaldson, which is a favorite series of mine. So I'm just getting into the audiobooks then, like when I'm walking the dog, if I'm not working or listening to fantasy football podcasts or reading comics, that's my bread and butter. So
I love it.
Andy Serkis has decided to do his rendition and narrate all the Lord of the Rings books for Audible, and he's amazing, guys. Let me tell you, like, if you just want to sit there in a car and listen to somebody passionately become Smeagol again and Gollum as he's like reading out these great novels, like, can't speak more highly about his narrations. He's so good. So
I have heard many good things about him doing audiobooks, and yeah, like, that sounds amazing. But that does bring us sort of to the end of the show. I do, though, want to give the opportunity. Where can people follow you? All that good stuff. Let them know where they should go. Why don't we start with Kevin, and then we'll do Mike.
I mean, we are one and the same. It's all Mad Quill Comics, at Mad Quill Comics for Instagram and Facebook, and madquillcomics.com, Mike.ca. Do we have .ca?
We have feralcomic.ca, which points to the Kickstarter. So it's typically our vanity URL for whatever project we're working on in the moment that's Feral related. And then madquillcomics.com is basically our home. We have madquill.substack.com as far as the newsletter goes, which you can also find on the website. But yeah.
Beautiful. Well, absolutely, to both of you. Thank you so much again for taking the time to come on the show. Congrats on already being backed. And hopefully we'll get more backers for you, and we can torture Kevin by making him draw people. And yeah, again, it was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Konrad. Appreciate it again, man.
Absolutely.
Great stuff.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day, yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns, can't find issue 2? Collector problems.